On this episode of the Dudes and Dads podcast, we talk with Greg Neumayer about wonder and adventure.
You're listening to the Dudes and Dads podcast, a show dedicated to helping men be better dudes and dads by building community through meaningful conversation and storytelling. And now, here are your hosts, Joel DeMott and Andy Lehman.
Andrew.
We're in studio again together.
Oh,
and
my goodness.
It's like beautiful.
It is. The friendly confines, as we like to call it. We're so glad.
Last time you were at a hotel not even in the lobby. You were in.
I was in a hotel room in Dallas.
You were not in the room though. That's the thing.
Dallas.
You were not even in the room.
No.
You were like outside. The birds were chirping or trying to chirp, but
oh, that's right.
It was yeah.
Oh no. You're saying yes. Last time. No, I was in
last
Toledo.
time we recorded. Yes.
I was in Toledo. That's where I was. That just shows you what life has been handing me recently. I can't remember what city I was in when I was speaking to you.
Yes.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to the Dudes and Dads podcast. Glad to have each and every one of you along. Looking forward to a great conversation today, Andy.
Yeah. So we've had our friend Greg on the show before. I don't even remember what Greg talked about last time, but
it was meaningful.
I gotta get him on. I actually gotta get him on. You know what? It was so meaningful that I forgot what it was about.
I think it was guarding your inner life.
Yeah, it was all about the inner life.
Oh, yes. I think it was, something like that.
And in true fashion, we were, talking about deep.
The life. Okay, wait.
It was checking
the
now.
Life of the Mind.
No, there we go.
Season 3, episode 21. Okay. Greg Neumayer. Had his spiffy picture with the blue background. So there you go.
Okay.
It was winter.
I
think it was what
dark.
I remember. It was dark outside by
all
the
Greg
time
remembers is that he was depressed when he got here.
It was cold. It was dark, and
yeah.
Hey, Joel. Before we get into it tonight, though, I know that we're gonna have people watching, and so I would love to have them comment. But dudesanddads.com/ask is gonna get you into the Zoom room. Ask. Like you're gonna ask a question. Yeah. I got you.
No. I wanted to make sure that I heard you correctly.
I'm the dude. So that's what you call me.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Ask
is going to get you into the Zoom room.
Beautiful.
Where you can physically be on camera with us and answer or ask your questions.
Is this the first time that we're allowing this level of access?
We are. So we've done it with Patreon listeners before, but never with the with the rest of the listeners, the other awesome people.
So we could get a weirdo or two on there. That's possible.
We could,
but
that keeps things interesting.
It does. But more to the point though. I just love that
pointing to it on screen.
more to the point. Again, just another avenue for people to connect, engage in the conversation. All great. That's wonderful.
Yes.
Love it.
So there. So we
love it.
dudesanddads.com/ask will get you into that. But
ask.
Greg, how are you, man? Welcome back to the show.
Good. I'm very good. Glad to be back with you guys, and
Greg.
Especially glad to hear of Joel's recent travels, and we connected with you and your wife.
Yeah,
and I had a great time last night too. So this is a real treat.
Yeah, so we went out to see a movie with my wife and Greg and his wife. We went to see Inside Out 2, which I actually think is
nice.
I'm just gonna say it. It's better than the first one. Would you agree, Greg?
I'm not there yet. I really love the first one, and this one was good too. I just think that they're at different. The first one was about childhood, and this one's very much about adolescence, and they each have a great space.
There's the introduction of anxiety, right? This is part of the
It's very interesting. All I'm going to say is they did a great job. If you've not seen it, go see it.
10-4. Every youth worker and parent will deeply connect with.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. I mean, they do an incredible job visualizing very deep, very specific kind of neuroscience concepts, and giving you a way of accessing them and saying, "Oh wow, that is exactly what that feels like." It's great.
Yeah. So today, though, we're going to be talking about adventure and wonder and all of those things, because Joel and I are actually going to be joining you soon on an adventure, a wonder.
And we're going to go on an adventure, and then I'm going to wonder why I agreed to go. No.
I'm really wondering why right now. Why did I sign up for this adventure?
No. Yeah, I think, Andy, you and I, we have conversations all the time about trips that we go, things that we do, things we do with our kids, things, like experiences. And we talk a lot about the formational power of experiences and the intentionality behind that. And obviously we've shared, I'm on this mission to do a significant special trip, one-on-one trip with each one of my kids after they turn 13. So there's this trip coming up. Josiah is coming along with us on this trip as he just turned 13 this past spring. And we're really, really excited about it. And yet I know that there are, and this is part of the adventure piece, there's stuff about this. Like Greg is first of all, he's just going to share with us. I mean, I just want him to like lay out what it is that he does and what he's been doing and why he does it, why these sort of trips and all of this.
Yeah.
But I think, and then tying in the piece of, there's an X factor to all of this stuff that like you can explain it, like you can tell us about the trip and we can talk about the logistics and all this sort of stuff.
We can talk about being a Crunchwrap Supreme for a bear, but whatever.
Yeah. Ooh, yes. But there's this other part that is really this adventure. I think this adventure and wonder piece that is kind of like you just gotta do it, right? So dive in with us.
Well, yeah, you're describing the ideal that so there's so much preparation you can have, and you can feel very prepared and still not feel ready.
Yeah,
and that I think everybody has that. I mean, I've been, oh man, I don't even know how many nights I've spent out in Northwest Wyoming where we're going, and it's not as many as others, but it's still like, I'm preparing right now, and even until the day I get there, I won't feel totally ready until you dive in and you say, okay, I'm doing this. And the whole idea with this, the man up retreats, and that's what I kind of just called it eventually at some point, was, so I worked in the Tetons on a missions internship during college. That was in 2009. Had one of the greatest summers of my life, but didn't get to experience the park very much. I worked overnight shift security. And so my schedule was way crazy and thrown off from the rest of the team that I was there with. When I had the chance to, we needed some in-between space, kind of an intermission time period where after my wife and I had just gotten married, we returned to the Tetons and worked there then together.
Yes.
And had a lot more of the park experience that time and just leaned in and was like, wow, this is really, I can't believe how much I missed out on the first time we were here. And even spending then another summer and into the fall. I mean, we closed the place out, left, in late October. Never felt like I got enough.
Yeah.
Then I had a good friend who we were turning 30 and said, you know what we need to do is we need to do a road trip and we need to do an adventure. We've got to do some of this thing. And I said, do you want to go back to the Tetons with me? And he was like, if you plan the thing, I'll go. And so
was that the first time for him to go, or what?
He was on that first year internship as well in 2009. And but I had the same experience. It was just like he went a hike, one or two hikes, and otherwise was just feeling dog tired and completely like it's a hard thing to live and work and enjoy all at the same space time.
I bet.
So we did that and planned out, the backcountry, discovered the whole permit system, just dove in completely cold, had nobody. I mean, we just, okay, I'm going to read a bunch of blogs. We're just going to show up. We're going to hike in. We're going to stay the night. We're going to do the things. And it was amazing and awesome. And suddenly felt like it awakened something in me that was just like this, you needed to do this. Like you needed to do this years ago.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, this is what I've been missing. There's something about this and it's not this like, oh, it's primal toxic masculinity or whatever. It's just like, no, it's just like the stars were brighter and there was more of them.
Yes.
And I was witnessing and seeing animals that I had, when a moose just walks by 10 feet, 15 feet away and doesn't care that you're there.
Right.
It's like, I know I'm the biggest, baddest thing in this woods right now. You guys just enjoy your little snack right there. And I'm going to go down here. I mean, you just sit there and you just go like, I am so small.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good experience. I think that's one of the things that kind of I mean, it may be a masculine thing, a manly thing, or it may just be a human thing in general, but sometimes we just need to be reminded of our smallness.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's
Yeah.
part of the trip then that was like, I should do
Yeah.
this again.
Yeah.
So I started it right then. I started planning the next year and invited more people. And that was 2019. So since 2019, I've been doing this every year. Open invitation. First few years were very closed invitations, like had to know somebody who knew somebody. The last 2 years now, or 3 years maybe, have been, okay, I'm going to broadcast this, bring this out, make this available. If this is, if you're in for kind of an adventurous retreat space, because it's not about an achievement. It's not about, oh, we're going to do the crest. We're going to do we're going to summit something. Now that we build some of that, I build some of that in.
Yeah.
But it's so much more about, okay, taking our cues from kind of the biblical theme of wilderness being you can have the chaos factor of wilderness, but you can also have the rest factor of wilderness.
Sure.
And so what I kind of describe it as is saying the purpose of the Man Up Retreat is to re-inspire men for adventurous lives of faith and deep relationships.
Yeah.
And so, so as you saw on the flyer or whatever, we enjoy the wild space, yet tame restless hearts. We revel in the isolated expanse, but dig into deep conversation. We embrace opportunity for challenging work, yet lean into the gift of rest. These days are meant to be healing, encouraging, and freeing in all good ways, and it's going to be awesome. So I'm so thrilled to have you guys coming along this year.
It's gonna be awesome. I know I'm really super excited. I was excited when you just said, or when Clinton Frame came and said, "Hey, we want to do this," and then once we had that first meeting where you're like, "Hey, here's what you need to know."
Yeah.
I went home and I was like, "This is gonna be awesome," right? I was like, "I'm ready for this." In fact, I want to.
Yeah.
I mean, I've not been yet, but I want to go back next time.
Yeah.
So,
The last time, and Greg, I don't think I've said this. The last time I've been to the Yellowstone region, but I was young. I was going into 6th grade, and I remember seeing the Tetons off in the far distance, and my parents being like, "This is just saying this is one of these amazing mountain whatever," and that is the only exposure I've had. So it has been living in you know what I'm saying? I have
in
this,
that dark spot.
Yeah,
I need to go.
There's just this postcard picture I have of it, and that's it. And I think,
we're gonna get you all up inside,
Yeah.
all into the nooks and crannies now.
That's the beautiful part of it. And I think there is something, earlier I was just thinking about what's a funny way that I could ask Greg, about this trip? What could I? And it's just it's man, what is the deal with people getting into the mountains? I mean, climbing, what is so special about can't they just be left alone? Can't the mountains just be off there in the distance?
Yeah.
And you just accept that they're there, and you go, oh, that's nice. Take a photo and be done. No. And why not? Why not though? Seriously.
I don't know. I think I think it could. I mean, there could be some personality things to it because some people feel the same way about the ocean.
Sure.
And it's just I just want to be on the beach and just look at the vast expanse of the ocean, and that's what makes them feel small and connected and stuff. And I don't really love water.
Sure.
That's just not the thing for me. But I see a mountain range, like that. And I just I want to explore that. I want to know that right there. I can see that line right there. That I could tell that it's a canyon of some kind. I want to know what's in there.
Yeah.
How do we get into that? And now, I've been going back. So, my first summer was 15 years ago, 2 summers later, the whole summer again. And now I've been going back every year for, a week or 2 weeks since 2018.
Yeah.
And I don't feel tired of it.
Yeah.
I try to build in a different itinerary, a different route for each group. Something that keeps me feeling a little, like I'm doing something new. Like it's not.
Well, and that's amazing too that you're saying you've been there for 15 years, right? It's the same place. There are parks that I like. I've been to different parks. I've in different places, but I think that that one in particular is just so vast, and there's so much that you can go and see and do, and
And it feels like. So I don't have a lot of exposure to many other national parks, but I have heard know from experience with Grand Teton that it's just very accessible.
Yeah.
And it's a drop fault range, so it's very dramatic. It's boom, there it is.
Yeah.
You can get right close to it on the lakes, the glacier-fed lakes and these things, and you're right on the trails immediately. You don't have to drive an hour and a half back in like Zion or Arches or something. You're like, oh, now we're going to drive an hour and a half to get to this one trail, and then we're going to drive an hour and a half back out. Or Yellowstone, which is kind of like a this figure eight, and it's essentially a drive-through museum, natural history, kind of exhibit. Now the Tetons are very, very different, which is what makes it so awesome for this kind of approach of the retreat and the wilderness and adventure and wonder. And I think that's really the thing. So when people come on the retreat, so like you guys, and I hope that this is kind of just the anticipation that you're feeling, is this, you have this inner question in us. I think all of us do, when we look at something and we ask, do I have what it takes to do that? Yeah. So like you both know that part of this particular trip with the Clinton frame will include, literally, we're going to start on one side of the mountain range. We're going to hike up a canyon, crest out at about 10,300 feet or so, 10,500 feet maybe, depends on if the particular trail is open there.
Depends if it's Joel or me, because he's taller than I am. So
just add a foot or something.
And then we're going to hike down on the other side of the mountain range. And so literally you look at a mountain range on a topographical map or on Google Maps or whatever, you're going to be like, I walked, my own 2 feet walked me up and over that.
That's awesome.
And you instantly are just go like, I can do that? Oh, if I could do, let's do that. Like, I want to have done that.
Yeah, and just for context, gentlemen, as we sit here this evening, we're currently at 927 feet. Because
we're on the third level of this particular building.
And that's just because we're in an upstairs studio in Indiana. So it's no minor like I know for this, like this coming month, I am trying to get out. By the way, I was going to send you, I didn't send you the photo. We were over at Warren Dunes. We did the big dune climb the other night.
How did that go for you?
How did you feel about that?
So here's what we got up. Now, mind you, it was a hot day. And so the other thing to overcome was I wore my sandals up and still my feet were about ready to burn off. It was still pretty warm, but I did have that feeling like once we got to the top, I'm like, okay, that was tiring. And I'm breathing good and hard. But we did that. And this is, and on top of that, dude, it's like, it is that climbing that dune, that's I think it's 700, I think it's like 700 feet, something like that.
I have no idea.
I think it's what it is. I literally did. I remember looking it up or whatever, but, so it's really ultimately it's a few 100-foot climb is what it is. But I remember thinking to myself, I'm like in my brain, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna go ahead and say that climbing like ladder climbing through sand is just gonna be a little harder, but like I'm not at elevation because we're doing. I mean, we start at what, 7,000 feet?
We start at 7,000 feet. At Jackson Lake's about 7,000 feet.
So the next month, what I'm dedicated to is intentional cardiovascular exercise, but that was a piece that I wanted to talk about, like in anticipation for the adventure, the preparation leading, and that you can't fully prepare, right?
There's no preparing for altitude,
bro. Right? We're in Indiana,
right?
Yep, we're in Indiana.
And so it's kind of been like, so I've just been like, well, I'm just going to do my best to be able to hike as well as I can. And we've been out. I mean, again, I just remember, and this is probably my worst fear. I remember the first time I went out to Denver to visit friends and family.
Okay.
And Greg, I don't know if I've ever told you this story. We had a friend who had moved out to Boulder year prior that was from this area. Krista, if you're listening, I just want you to know I love you dearly, but this was hard for me. So she had moved out a year prior, and she was going to be like, I was out there just my wife had a company trip she was out there for, and so I had an opportunity to be out there for like a long weekend with them. And so like, hey, we're going to cram in a bunch of like the quintessential Denver range experiences. I get off this is my first time. I get off the airplane. She picks us up at the airport, and we go to Pikes Peak, and like did the cog train thing. I was okay. I felt okay to the top. Now, what also ticks me off, Pikes Peak, it's a 14,000. That's a 14,000 footer. It was completely fogged over. I couldn't see a doggone thing when you got to the top. So it was like whoop-de-doo. But it was my first time with altitude sickness that I had felt like you're up there. You're like, my head feels swimmy, swimmy, and not in a good, like not in a good way. And then got like by the time I got back into the train, because you're only up there for like 20 minutes and they come back down. Got in the train, and I just remember like resting my head on the cold window of the train. And once I got back down to like 8,000, I started feeling a little bit better. But man, oh man, that was my first experience. And what I've said is, I never want to feel that way again, ever in my life. It is just kind of like the worst, because it literally, it's an interesting thing of, it's your surroundings. It's the actual atmosphere, the actual place that you are in that moment. Not just like, it's like the thing that's making you not do well is all around. Like it's all around you. You are trapped. Like there's not like a room you can go into that magically makes you feel better. And I just remember this, like, I think this feeling of a lack of, like, how when you are out of your normal surroundings, this part of adventure, when you're out of your normal surroundings and there's this thing that you cannot control, and this thing that's kind of overcoming you, and you're just like, there's something within you that goes, I want to make sure I'm better at this next time, or it doesn't get me the same way. And what I will say, call it what you will, every time we've been out ever since, I've had less negative experience, being out there. And my brother lived in Denver for a long time, going to the range. Did a marked men retreat at 9,500 feet in the range a few years ago. Made sure I acclimated in Denver for 2 days before I went up. Yeah, a lot of ibuprofen water. I was fine. It was totally okay.
Yeah,
so
there's no preparation. There's no training for altitude. There's just not. Your body is used to a certain oxygen saturation at this level. It takes, and everybody's different. I mean, literally every body is different in its acclimation time. I have found that, about 48 hours is, will be the telltale, mark of whether or not, somebody is, if they're continuing to feel lightheaded, nauseous or nauseated, any kind of persistent headache, and they've been hydrating really, really well, because hydration is so crucial. If they've been hydrating really, really well, and we've only been at 7,000 feet, or maybe only gone up, to one of our hikes will go up, 882 or 8,400 or so. That it might not be for them to go over the 10 mark. It may be, they might be one of those bodies that it's like, this was going to take you a week, but I haven't had that happen yet. Usually it's been right around 2 days. And that's why, the guys who are coming in, you guys coming in, we're going to stick around in the valley for those couple days. And some of you are driving in, which is way better too, because you're
kind of just move up.
You're just continuously, gradually gaining that oxygen and or gaining that acclimation.
Lack of oxygen.
You to drop in to fly in and then go up to 14,000 feet within hours. That's a recipe for.
I look back on it now.
Day.
I was like, what was she thinking? But inevitably, I don't know. There was another conversation of like, hey,
it's all excitement.
Why don't we go do this stuff? And it's like, oh my gosh, and I think, but the whole idea, and I think on any adventure thing that we go on, we love the control, we love the preparation. We spend so much time. We have these conversations as parents all the time, right? Around to what degree do we eliminate the unknown or the X factors from the lives of ourselves, our children, our families? Is there a value? Is there a value of pursuing the unknown in those things? Greg, I wonder from your perspective, like, and maybe this is the fun part where he gets to tell us, like, what's the worst thing that's ever happened to him, or like, what's the unexpected things that have happened to you? I mean, I'm sure there have been things, and what were those? You can share whatever you want to share, but like, what were those things like, or what did they maybe produce in you? Because I think there's value in that too.
Yeah, I think the preparation side of things, when we ask this question of do I have what it takes, or is it, could I do that? Is that something I could do? I mean, those are those questions that keep us, we're going to default one way or the other. We're going to say, well, I need to lean into as much planning and control as I could possibly have until I feel as prepared as I could be, and I minimize that sense of risk.
Mhm.
Or you have the, well, whatever it is, it will be, and let's just go for it. And I think the balance is somewhere in the middle of that and that's where I think wonder comes in, like where we're open to wonder. We're open to saying, I don't have it all figured out. There's going to be something of this that is going to surprise me. And I'm actually expecting that. When we think about, okay, we're going to do, the up and over will be about 20 miles, it'll be about a 20-mile hike up and over, and come down Teton Canyon and such. Your body is meant to do that. Like your body's meant to put one foot in front of the other, and your body's meant to do that. We're going to give it the energy, we're going to give it the rest, and some of that will be uncomfortable. I think the real, the preparation there is actually more in mental, more the mental side than it is.
Even when you said 20 miles, it's like, for me, I've hiked not nearly that many miles before. Yeah. And when you say 20 miles, it just sounds like a lot. Even though in reality, like you said,
it's going to be the 20 most beautiful miles of your life.
Yeah. and I'm looking forward to it, a lot. And that was one of the things when you said, okay, if you want to do this overnight thing, this where we go up and camp and then go down or whatever, I was like, yes. Like, even though it's a lot, I want to do it because I want to experience that. And I know I can do it, even though it sounds like a big task right now, me being in Indiana. And for crying out loud, the other week I just walked around the block from my work. It's like just over a mile, and it was kind of hot out, but I was recording some audio for an audio journal, and my wife listened to it later, and she said, I could barely listen to that because you were panting so bad. And I'm like, oh, I know, I gotta. But it's like I was trying to talk and walk.
I know this feeling so well. I know it so well. Yeah,
that's gonna boost the confidence for sure.
No, but I mean, but in all reality, like I knew, like there was a difference because I was talking and trying to walk, and it was hot out and all this stuff. So I know that there's a difference there. So
and so I have a bit of a there's pretty well known hiking formulas out there, or whatever. If you're under load, like we're gonna carry backpacks and whatnot. And it'll just be one night's worth. So really you're talking like, okay, we're going to carry sleeping systems, shelter, and then, enough food for the 2 meals or whatever that we're going to miss or take in the backcountry. So around that, we're going to be hiking around 2 to 2.25 miles an hour. That means, okay, so 10 miles up and over into the wilderness, into the Alaska Basin, the wilderness. So you're expecting 5 hours there, but for every 1,000 feet of altitude you gain, expect it to add an hour. So for that, you kind of just go like, okay, this is going to be an 8 to 9 hour hike. And if you mentally tell yourself it's going to take that long, it's not a race. It's not something it's not something to complete. It's something to enjoy.
Yeah.
And that's really where I think the mental side of it is like, oh, I'm going to be intentionally physically uncomfortable, but I'm going to be so much more spiritually refreshed. And that's where the trade-off is like, okay, I'm going to put my body through something far more uncomfortable than usual, but my soul is going to just be giving me these deep, long sighs of, I've been looking for this. This is exactly what I was waiting for.
Right. And I think for me, this trip is going to be great. I know that Joel's going to be going on it, but quite honestly, for me, like Joel and I are good friends, and I'm hoping to spend some time alone and with other people. So for me, I've mentally prepared myself saying, I'm not going to talk to Joel as much as I normally do, just because I want to get time with God and with other people too. So I'm really looking forward to the trip for those reasons.
Yeah.
I love what you see come out of people with their different personalities. Different personalities when you get into this space, because that's what. That's just my observation over the last 5 years. And I think now I've got guys who have come from California and Washington and Iowa and Indiana and Michigan and Pennsylvania, Nebraska, and I'm sure that I'm missing somebody. When they get into the same space, no matter where they came from, they get into that space, something clicks, and there's this camaraderie that instantly it forms. It's just like, oh, we're in the mountains together, guys. Like
Right.
we're in the this is the hardcore cool stuff, and
Yep.
we're gonna sleep outside, and we're gonna and we're gonna cook over the fire, and we're gonna and at any given time, a grizzly bear could just show up and decide they want to be part of the adventure too.
A crunch wrap supreme.
So like I just think it's I mean, as far as like this, whether you want to call it I think it's an existential thing. I mean, there's just the adventure side of it. It's like, and for somebody listening, it may not be about, okay, you're connecting with the wilderness and the mountains. It's really not about that. Adventure does not have to be that's just a context.
Yeah.
The longing for adventure has much more to do with this personally connecting with something outside of ourselves, and having something that feels out of reach and asking, do I have what it takes? Could I do that? And then
do it. Yeah.
doing it,
Well,
like trying.
It's the same time thing as, you mentioned people along the beach or people that are, swimming around Mackinac Island and, things like that. Just where it's like, it's a big adventure. It's more than you think that you can do. But that's when you, I think, see, I mean, if we're talking Christian wise, that's where you see that God helping you and you showing up and like, yeah, those are the times that you realize you can do more than you think you can do.
Yeah. And I think that if we can embrace that, like that part of us that feels a little lost, like the being on an adventure in our life, then that can even be something we bring into, like, the real question is, do you feel that, do you have to go somewhere else to grasp that? And is that what then feels suddenly like, oh, I'm finally alive? Or is there something about that connects with your actual daily life? You know what I mean? You can have that in physics and engineering and mechanics and coding and, teaching, like all of those things can be adventure. If we have that perspective or that mental outlook.
Right. And I think it helps though, when you get away from your daily grind, whether or not, the three of us have jobs, right?
Yeah.
And so we have responsibilities for every day. And then we all of us have kids that are going to and from in all different places. And so something like this allows us to step away for a short amount of time and go, okay, I'm going to completely separate myself from the normal. You've said there's no cell phone signal up there really. And
they try to keep increasing the coverage, and I keep going, why? Keep doing
don't do
this?
that.
Like,
Don't do that.
Stop making it.
Right. and so that allows you to get away. But at the same time, what you said too, you could be here, and as long as you plan that out. So you're saying, okay, for the day I'm going to go to, there's hundreds of things within 50 to 100 miles of here that we could go, maybe not near as grand and adventurous, but things that we can do that would allow us to get away for the day or the afternoon too.
Yeah. And that's where the concept of retreat comes in, of just going like, okay, this is not retreat because you're surrendering. This is retreat to regroup. And it's more like a regrouping than a retreat. It's like, okay, how do I take a step back, rally, and breathe? And then estimate and somehow take a look at what's coming ahead. And I think that's always been just one of that was something that I can almost count on every single year being out there, is that while I'm there, mentally speaking, I disengage so much from the normal, regular day-to-day. And while I'm there, engaging this other different kind of, task or problem or adventure or journey, somehow the things that I was more worried about and concerned about from the normal things back here, they clarify. They end up clarifying in that space. I feel a little more rallied, or at least they end up feeling like these things that feel insurmountable about things back home or back in the on planet Earth, because you have that re-entry experience. Feels like you've been in a different place. They feel more manageable. The problems feel smaller. You just have a different perspective. You get up a little higher and you just like, oh, I can see a little bigger picture now. So I think that's part of the wonder component of it too, and what it means to embrace the wilderness side of it. And I think that's a biblical theme. Speaking very, very Christianly, like Luke says, Jesus often withdrew to lonely places to pray, and that's a way of saying like, well, Jesus often withdrew to lonely places to connect with his Father, and grasp the gravity of the next step, or regroup from the work and the output of what had just been accomplished.
It seems to me that there is a real power in being that letting these foreign places alarm us as to our constant noise, constant had someone share about a trip that they just did a Boundary Waters trip, and the individual said that they had to use it. I think, what did he say? He said at night that he had to use either, it was some sort of like earplugs or something, because it was so quiet.
Oh,
Wow.
Like the level of the lack, just
the lack of noise,
the lack of noise or
him.
whatever it is was, alarming. And it's like we should be alarmed by that. Like, that's a good check-in, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh wow. And up there where he is, it is illegal to have more than 9 people per square mile. So
Whoa.
yeah, like,
So it's real quiet.
And they enforce, the rangers up there will enforce literally, if there's more, they enforce that as a noise ordinance violation.
Really?
So
There's just too many people.
there's too many people that
right now.
Yeah, and that's everything
You're
from
gonna
their,
disturb the trees.
yeah, like the canoe paddle noise. I don't know, but but like I think that's the gosh, it is really, really good.
Yeah.
And I'm just really intrigued by just the idea of having certain places or experiences alarm us as to these things that are missing in our life, and these components that are
Namely silence and solitude.
silence and solitude is a big one. I know from personal experience, and I'm due for another, probably a small, like, to work up to my experience, but like, I know
your time is running short. You got to get that in quick.
yeah, we're running out of times to I know folks who say they desire these sort of things and try to run headlong into them, and you begin to realize, like, even on the retreating side, it's like, yeah, that's actually, it's a little bit of a muscle that you have to strengthen. If you just go in head first and be like, hey, I'm just going to remove myself from all things, and like, I'll see you in 2 weeks or whatever.
Is that what they call, like, the anechoic chamber, right?
Yeah.
You just jump
That's-
into one of those and it just drives you nuts.
Yeah.
for
Oh man, it's
hours.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
You can kind of have that experience a bit.
Yeah. And people are, where it's just like, no, hey, try a day, try 2, then try 3.
It's essentially like fasting.
Yeah,
When
it
you
is.
first start
Sure.
fasting, you don't want to go for a whole 30-day fast. Like, that's a ridiculous thing to do. Even 2 weeks for your very first time is ridiculous.
Even
right?
3 days.
Right.
Like 3
right.
days fasting, you're gonna feel like, why did I? This is like, you'll be angry and
I'm dying.
Yeah. And so you start that out by doing
Yeah.
a couple hours or a day or half a day, and then you extend that. And so the same thing, I think, here with retreat, and I appreciate the fact. I think one of the things that I really am looking forward to is the fact that you are leading us. Like, you've been here however many times, right? You
Yeah.
know this, and you know what to expect. And so, like, for me, that takes out the need for me to, I don't want to say prepare, because that's not the right word, but like, for me to start worrying about things and figuring out, okay, how am I going to do this? Because I know that you and Adam, right?
Yeah.
Are gonna be able to help guide us in those things. So, like, for me, that's something.
The
that's
value of a guide in
Right.
all of this. There's that seems to be another good, solid biblical theme,
Right.
For sure.
Right. But so, can you tell us? So we've talked a little bit about, we're going to be doing hiking, right? And we're going to be doing some camping. Like, what else? Like, tell me essentially the quick pitch that you were telling us that night when we were sitting in the coffee shop, and we were all going, yes, this is awesome, let's do it. And some of us were going, I don't know that I can do this, but I'm still gonna go. Like, what's your pitch there?
So really, my hope, my goal is it's putting, it's having a finger on the pulse of what Joel's describing there, saying, like, we are too busy, we are too future oriented, and too in our day-to-day lives. I mean, you could go any different number of directions. You could have the Tyler Durden spiel from the
Right,
from Fight Club. I mean, you like, there's something about us that feels like we are alive but but not living.
Mhm.
And there's I just heard this. Not just heard it. There's a beautiful song that John Foreman sings. He says, "Don't let your spirit die before your body does."
Mm.
And it's like this.
That's a wow.
Feels very much like,
I'll
okay,
tat that on my arm. Yeah.
what is it that we need to have that to keeps that from happening? And for me, I feel like over the last few years, I've really put just kind of like, the only way I know how to describe it is wonder, is to say what we need is wonder. We can have adventure, and lots of people can look into adventure. And then if you only have adventure, what you can end up with is like an adrenaline junkie kind of experience. Of, I just want to have the next trip. I just want to go and experience something I never had before. Go somewhere I hadn't seen, and you just have this like next. And so where wonder comes in is to say, oh, what I need is to scale back, step back, slow down, and feel small.
Mhm.
And I need to realize, oh, there's a bigger story happening around me. And suddenly, something I'm playing around with, like a kind of a principle I'm going to call the chaos ratio, is like, so in scripturally, biblically speaking, the wilderness represented chaos. It represented like there's nothing governing this space.
Yeah.
It is wild. You go into the chaos, and suddenly the chaos that exists within ourselves, well, if there's more out there, then maybe I can actually suddenly get a handle on what's happening in me. And the ratio is flipped. There's more chaos in me than it feels like in the world most of the time, because it's just such a governed space. Like everything is like rule of law, and someone's telling you where to be, what to do, and has expectations.
Yeah.
And so there's more chaos inside than outside. You get into this wilderness, and it's a bona fide designated wilderness. And you go, oh, there's more chaos out there than inside right now. Finally, the ratio flipped. And if I pay attention to this, I slow down and it feels smaller. And suddenly there's this rest happens, you know, where rest happens, because you have to go, I can't possibly control all of this. And I have observed over, you know, these 5-6 years now that the more control I'm used to, the less comfortable I am in the wilderness.
Ooh.
And
Okay.
that has been a really profound like thing to witness, is that the people who will have the hardest time with this, with really, I'm going to say, leaning into wonder is we're the same people who are like used to calling the shots, used to putting dotting the I's, crossing the T's, connecting the details, and putting the box together that we live in. And suddenly we are not doing that anymore, and it's hard.
I remember a few years ago, again, doing a Quadico trip up into Canada. You know, we're out in the wilderness there, and we brought along my dad brought along a friend of his who, though my father had done everything he could to try to prepare him for this trip, the guy did not come prepared. And my dad would call this guy a close friend, was relationally sideways with him a good portion. And I've really analyzed this over the years. This is several years back ago this happened. I really analyzed it. And part of it was that, like, my dad was connected to this idea of like, I told you what you needed to be able to do, and you haven't done that.
Yeah.
And I am massively uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, you know, with that piece. And the part of me goes now, it's like, yeah, it's like, right. Production engineer dad was experiencing somebody who just didn't get it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where you're kind of describing the difference between instructions and guidance.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, like the first time that I went out, and so in 2018, just planning this personal retreat, and my one of my greatest friends ever, Ray, was with me, and he was the one willing to like, okay, we're gonna jump in, let's do this, I trust you. And it was hard to not pack the day and operate by an agenda of what needed to get done. And he was really good God was teaching him a lot about Sabbath at the time. It's just like, what if we just took at least one day? Like, what if we took a day and we weren't sure what was going to happen?
Yeah.
And there was this like, prepare for the unexpected kind of thing, or be ready to be surprised kind of principle. And that was really refreshing to me, and ended up being one of the most important takeaways from that trip. Now, I had just greatest experience ever with him, and I'm so happy for those core memories. But there was a principle that had to be learned, especially for the masculine heart, our own, brotherhood in that experience of leaning into wonder and realizing, there's something important about the world will move and work without my input.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
and I'm really small. And so sometimes you just need to, like, I'll tell you another experience or another, way that principle was kind of reaffirmed for me was one year I was out there, and so this was 2020, so I couldn't take a whole bunch of people. The parks were they weren't sure what was happening one day to the next. But one guy was like, I'm still willing to go. Like, let's make it happen. I was really looking forward to this. If it's just you and me, that's okay. Let's do it. And he was like, I am okay with you just deciding what to do any given day. I trust you in this space. Let's just do it. But I want you to do something for me, for you. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And he's like, I want you to say, I don't want you to worry about what I need. I want you to realize and lean into, is there something here that you've never done that would be good for you? Like, and don't worry about if I have the capacity or the strength or if I'm going to be up for it. Like, I want that for you. And suddenly it was like okay, that's another new principle. Like, that's another new thing of saying, what do I want for somebody else? So for you guys coming on this group, I want you to be able to have an experience there in this space of having the adventure, of accomplishing the adventure, but also of being reintroduced to the importance of wonder, because you can take that back home.
Yeah.
And when you have that as a value and you say, oh, I can live with wonder and I can look at wonder and I don't have to just take it all at face value. I'll just tell you this, this afternoon, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I've been, as a dude and a dad, I've been really struggling recently trying to figure out what does it mean for me as me to connect with my kids at 9, 7 tomorrow, 5 and 3. And know that I can't connect with them as my wife does, and I can't connect with them as their uncle or as their grandparent or as, I have to connect with them as myself. And what is it that I could do together? And we somehow ended up, I wanted them to, it was great. Like, we watched Peter Pan for the afternoons, like just kind of a down Sunday thing. And then it was, okay, let's everybody go outside. Beautiful day finally. So we went outside and they were swinging and they were on the back. The first thing we did after we bought the house was build a tree fort kind of thing and give reason to be outside and play. And my 3-year-old was just thrilled. She was so happy. Daddy, come and look at me. Daddy, come and look at me, how high I can swing. And she's swinging all by herself. And then suddenly we wandered off a little bit, and we have a wild patch right behind the swing set area. And in the summertime, you'll find berries in there. And so suddenly we were just all picking wild black raspberries and wild blackberries. And we were connecting in the kind of way that I always feel like I should be planning for and trying to make happen.
It just happened.
Suddenly it was just happening. And it was like, I'm picking the blackberry and I'm handing it to her. And she's just like, I was like, Sophie, you have had some blackberries today. And she just looked at me, she goes, I love blackberries. They didn't wander away. We were doing this together. And then I was clearing some weeds so that we could get to them a little easier. And then all of a sudden, that's what they're doing. They had sticks and they're like trying to stamp them down and and I was like, man, that was way easier than I always think that it's. I always like trying to work myself up mentally to manufacture this connection. And they were just ready for it if I was open to it. And that was important. So what I'm hoping for is something very similar to that is what happens for you all on this trip, on these retreats, is that you taste that wonder and you go, oh, my Heavenly Father, my older brother, my eternally older brother, Jesus, is waiting to show something to me, to reveal something with me, to lead me into wonder, introduce me to the grandness of his space, of this beautiful area, remind me how small I am, but how much he cares about me, and to say, I'm so glad that we can do this together. I'm just, that's what it's all about for me.
So I'm so excited. And Greg, I'll just say just real quick, I'm so excited to experience this with you guys and my son.
Yes.
Mhm.
That to me is just such a gift. And we haven't even been. We're not even there yet. And
But you're building anticipation, which is already bonding.
Yeah. I already feel that sense of just like, oh man, that's amazing.
So as we were talking, I looked up the word wonder. A feeling of surprise mingled with admiration caused by something beautiful, unexpected, unfamiliar,
Ooh,
Oh, that is so good.
that's
yeah.
good.
or
Yeah.
inexplicable.
Way to go,
So,
Andy.
yeah,
That is like, man.
So that's
was
the
a
definition right there
great-
of wonder. So,
Oh, that's perfect.
The unexpected. I mean, that just power in the unexpected. Guys, in our spiritual lives, in our walks, how much unexpected? And Greg, I feel like this is maybe. I feel like you've preached a few sermons on this for sure. We don't approach we don't approach our relationship with Jesus this way. I'm on a dangerous internal rant right now with just religious life in general and my own faith walk and all of this, where I just am being confronted. I don't know if I don't know this. Might be having a midlife crisis too. I don't know about all this, but like just being confronted with like everything is packaged. Everything is, there is so much plug and play. You know, Greg, you and I like years of upper level education, of which I am super grateful for. At the same time, like just there's so much of it that's planned. There's steps. You do year 1, year 2, you get the and then, you know, and before you know it, you go like, none of this was like, what's gonna happen now? Oh, what, you know, like none of it was I don't feel like much of it was that way. It was kind of like, no, this is what you do. Get it done, move on to the next thing. You know, as it is, you know, obviously, you know, for all of us in various spheres. I am just concerned. I'm more concerned. I'm super concerned about that reality for so many, and recognize, I think, the toll that it has taken on me. I'm sure my friends, brothers and sisters, people that I've counseled and cared for. And I mean, Greg, I don't know, guys, do we need to go and just mess some things up? Is that what needs to happen? Do you just need to, I don't know, sell all you have, go get in an RV, I don't know, whatever. Like some people do that sort of stuff, and we watch them on Instagram and go, wouldn't that be
That'd
nice?
be great. Yeah.
Oh, but really, we have real lives to live here. I'm just, as in this conversation, I'm just reminded of these realities, and something that just has rubbed me wrong, or a realization I've woken up to, is kind of this like, how much wonder is there really in our life? How much unexpected is there really? How much do we just go, didn't see that?
I didn't see
that coming. It really is. Whereas I think in various parts of history and other places, I have to believe that people lived in a daily reality of, didn't see that coming. Oh my gosh, here we are. Oh, what next? What? Oh, you know, all that sort of thing. And man, that there is, I don't know, I haven't fleshed all that out, but there's some weight to that, I think.
No, there definitely is, because I mean, what you're describing there is the difference between, if you're living in a sense of oppression and poverty, and a sense of what catastrophic thing is around the corner, is next week, is the next day. And I mean, you're talking about a kind of fearful way of living where wonder, the sense of the unexpected, is not a good thing. We're talking about wonder in a sense of the unexpected and the surprising is something to anticipate, and it will be good. But for many people, and I mean, this is where the question of faith comes in, and the question of joy comes in. If we're joy bounded to life, like life is an adventure to live, we have a sense of peace. We know where peace comes from. We know where belonging is. And so adventure is not something that we have to muster to accomplish in order of keeping something bad from happening. That's war, right? Right. no, adventure is something that we can desire because there is wonder to encounter. But the other side of that is we live. I mean, if you don't have that joy or that peace, if you don't have that hope and that stability and that belonging, then wonder could easily probably be replaced by, like, I don't know if you would call it paranoia or terror or dread, really.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's where I mean, Inside Out 2, we're going to come all the way back around to this anxiety, like the idea of fear has control of your imagination.
Yeah.
And the only thing I see coming in the future is pain or difficulty. And I've been there. I've totally been there. Have been there recently. I mean, so this isn't like a constant state of anticipation. I think really what it is how do we reintroduce wonder into our daily lives, and that will come about. That does have to be an endeavor of faith that we look at and say, okay, well, the Good Shepherd does lead his sheep into abundant life upon life. Oh, my Heavenly Father does give good gifts to those who ask him. Even I, as an earthly father who don't get everything right, can muster that amount of love. There is this. He's working all things for good of those who love him and are called according to his purposes. And okay, so, well, in what way will this heartache, this difficulty get worked out for good? I don't know. It hurts right now, though, I'll tell you that. So yeah, I think that's where part of the guiding of life does have to be part of. We are not. Okay, so I'll kind of wrap that thought up with. We end up with the least desire for wonder, maybe, when we have and are used to the most amount of control, but we were not designed to be autonomous, independent beings.
Yeah.
We're not autonomous. We're not independent. We're actually designed for dependence, and that dependence is beneficial. It's to our good. As creative and exciting and adventurous as any of us are, we're not a drop in the bucket to God's creativity, to the Lord's desire for adventure and working restoration and redemption. I mean, we're now on our restoration and redemption story, but the more we dismiss or resist that dependence and crave and claim that autonomy and independence, I think the more we push wonder out of our life because it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit now.
Yeah. Well, and gosh, that's so true. And I think, for those listening, I would encourage you as I will. I'm going to process that idea. I'm going to apply these ideas to our daily life now as we experience them. Take a look. Use the wonder filter. By the way, it's the title of the book that we will write about this.
Yeah.
If we
the wonder filter,
I like
the
it.
wonder filter. The mountains and midlife crises. But applying the wonder filter to things and taking a look at how you're experiencing life daily. Is wonder a component of it? If not, why? Is it these controlling factors, these postures that we've determined that are stealing it from us? I mean, I think you all of us here at this table would agree, like, if God is who he says he is, and we believe that he is, like, there's a whole lot more life out there. Like there is, and it is available. And by the way, it's not secret. It's not hidden, like, the way like a mean person hides something from you to keep it from you. It is hidden because we are, like, not aware. Like we are just like we are in these places where we're
too easily satisfied.
Yes, that was the whole mud pie thing. C.S. Lewis, this whole, like, we could be a vacation at sea, and we're just, like, playing with these on the shore.
We're playing in a mud puddle.
Like, isn't this great? And it's like, oh well, okay, if that's what you're into, but there is more, and just so easily easily satisfied, easily satiated. And with things that do not last, and getting, and we're talking here. It's like we're getting out into God's country, literally, to to shake us up a little bit, to put us in a different setting, but not just for that alone.
No.
Like it is both it's a metaphor wrapped in a enigma. There's other worldliness that goes in beyond the immediate experience as God uses his creation to point us to things that are beyond the beyondness.
I think this has been a super helpful episode, and I really appreciate you coming on and talking to us about this. And I think, Joel, we need to definitely have a follow-up episode to this.
Betcha.
And I want to right now invite anybody who's going on this trip with us to be on the call
awesome.
with us, and so we can have we can talk about that, because I think that's going to be, it can be helpful, because I think we'll be able to talk about our experiences and just kind of as best as we can put that into words. And I think that's going to be tough, is to put this experience into words. And I mean, you've been there however many times, I think, Greg, and it seems like there's still that awe and wonder in your eyes every time you come back. It doesn't get old. And so like, I think I'm going to have a tough time putting things in words, but we'll try.
Yeah. And what I almost guarantee is if you're prepared, if your heart, your mind, your body great, but mind and heart prepared enough, what's going to happen is you have this experience, and then you immediately go, how do I share this with somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
Like the next year you're taking a family vacation back out there, and you want to bring that in. And I don't want that to be about the context, because the context is always shifting. It's always changing. It's not about, there's nothing magical about the Tetons, about Northwest Wyoming. I mean, it happens to be the place that captured my imagination,
right?
And introduced me to this wonder, and so it makes it easy. But that sense of how do I embrace this value in my Monday, every other Monday of the year? Like, how do I embrace this value with my child as they are climbing their own mountains, as they are preparing for their own wilderness? How do I help them take stock of and account for their resources and be satisfied with something called enough, instead of like, I have to, how do I make sure that I have more and more and more than what that kind of thing. I think that's what it ends up being all about, and that's what I'm hoping for you guys and the other, let's see, how do we have 12, 14? There's 16 total, I think. So there's you two, so the other 13 plus the three of us. So yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, going to be a great trip. We're looking forward to it. Greg, thank you, brother.
Yes.
We are just always so thrilled to have you here. Thanks for hanging out with us and talking with us. Hope the conversation's been helpful to others, has inspired some potential awe and wonder and sense of adventure. Maybe the need to not just plan another vacation, plan something.
I was trying to think of like
awesome
adventure-cation, but I didn't know where to think about.
Something awesome and wonderful. Plan do something like this, in whatever level you can. But Andy's hitting buttons. There we go. Okay.
It wasn't working today.
As always, guys, you can send us an email over at dudesanddads@gmail.com.
You can always join us during our live sessions, which happen Sunday evenings, roughly every other Sunday evening. And we would love to have you on our Zoom call, where you can listen and join and potentially be a guest on the show and ask questions to people. So
join the community. Guys, get on the socials, like it, follow it, do all the stuff. It's always helpful to get on that community. A lot of really great things happen over there. Would love for you to be part of those things. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out.
You can call our voicemail too, 574-213-8702.
Always great. Guys, we look forward to seeing you next time. And until then, we wish you grace
and peace.